Okay, dill pickles. First thing you do, make up the brine, give it a couple hours to set and age. This brine here consists of 4 cups of water, 4 cups of vinegar, and a quarter cup of salt, and a tablespoon of pickling spices. This is a triple batch of that, so there's 12 cups of water, 12 cups of vinegar, and a 3/4 cups of salt in this batch. Now after bringing the brine to a boil, you turn it off and let it set for a couple of hours and let it steep. What happens is the brine will turn to a light tannish color as the spices work into it. Next step is to get your jar sterilized. I use the dishwasher. I have a sani rinse cycle which will sterilize the jars. While the brine is steeping and the jars are sterilizing, we can go ahead and prep everything that we put in the jars. First I get all the grape leaves cut loose that I plan on using. We line the bottom of the jars with the grape leaf, put them into water and let them just stay moist. We have hot peppers to dice up for the spicy ones, garlic to dice up for all of them, and the dill I've already clipped the ends and it's soaking in water. Next thing we'll do is start prepping the cucumbers. You'll nip the ends and we'll slice them up into quarters. There's multiple ways to make the cucumbers. When I do the dill pickles, I'll do circles for hamburgers, I'll do flat ones for sandwiches, or I'll just do spears and halves for eating. The smaller pickles I'll tend to leave in the larger size of either half or whole. The large pickles like this I'll slice into 4 to 6 spears. These here I'll slice into 4 nice spears, and we throw them up into here and we leave them soaking in water. You want to let your cucumbers soak for at least an hour before you start putting them in the jars and packing them. It helps them be crispier when they cook. Smaller ones such as these, I'll just take and nip the ends. And these I'll just slice in half. If you try to leave them whole, you don't get a lot of room in the jars. When you cut them into smaller pieces like that, you're able to pack them tighter and slip them around each other. Like this large one, I will actually do into 6 spear pieces. They still come out large spears. And some of them I'll do is cut as circles, and we'll use them in the top of the jars to help fill it up, not to waste space in there, and get as many cucumbers as possible to turn into pickles. Now that we have the cucumbers all sliced up and how we're going to can these, we're doing spears and partial halves this time. We need to prep the garlic. As you see, I buy the Christopher Ranch pre-peeled cloves, and all I do is dice them up a little bit finer for usage. And just spread your cloves out and go ahead and just, with your French knife, start dicing them into smaller pieces. You do this because it'll help enhance the flavor going through, because pre-peeled garlic develops a skin over it as it sits in the jar, and it inhibits the flavor coming out as quickly. So I make sure at least every clove is chopped in half. I usually try to get each clove into half a dozen pieces. If you get it too small, it can be a pain to handle. So I like some decent sized chunks to work with. It makes life easy. So you get your garlic all diced up, and set that aside with your grape leaves and your dill and the cucumbers, and wait for the jars to finish coming out of the dishwasher sterilized. Now one final thing, I make half of my pickles is hot and spicy pickles, so we'll go ahead and we'll prep some hot peppers out of the garden for that. I use a combination of serranos, jalapeno, cayenne, Thai, and Tabasco peppers for this batch. Now with the hot peppers, they're pretty easy to prep. You just snap the stems off because they don't flavor through too good. The stems can give it a bitter flavor. Make sure you get all of the stems off really good. And always make sure you wear gloves, or you will be sorry even 2 or 3 hours later after washing your hands multiple times. You can rub your eye and set it on fire. It lasts for several hours using it barehanded. And after we get all the tops off, we go ahead and we dice these up. And what I'll do is I'll put them in a bowl and I'll spoon them into the jars, so once they're diced up I'll be able to take the gloves off and work with everything easily. And I do make these pieces smaller since I got like 5 different types of peppers. It makes sure that it mixes through the jars pretty evenly on the flavors. Not one jar is all jalapenos and another jar is all something else. It lets them get pretty much an equal flavor across all your jars. So we'll take and pull our cup up. You wear the hot pepper seeds left here. Get all that off real good. Wash your equipment and your hands. And we'll show you that. We got our hot peppers that we spoon in. We got our garlic. I have my grape leaves and my dill. And of course the cucumbers for the pickles. That is your basic ingredients for Polish dill pickles. While the jars are getting close to sterilizing in the dishwasher and we'll be ready to pack them soon, I go ahead and I get the water bath pot on the left up to boiling. And over on the right, I get the brine where it's boiling and turn it back down where it's just below that point. So when we put in the jars, it is steeping hot. Doing this into the jars with the hot brine prevents them from exploding when you drop them into the boiling water to seal the jars. Dishwasher is done sterilizing the jars. I have the water at a soft boil on the back of the stove, a little bit below high. I have the brine at a boil and brought it down to about medium low. The next thing you do is we got to pack our jars. So the first thing in the jars is the grape leaf. Go ahead and use like a wooden spoon and flatten it out into the bottom and lay those down. Then you take the garlic and add a few pieces of the chopped up garlic each jar depending on your flavor. You can vary the amount of garlic. I usually end up with roughly about 2 cloves per jar, 2 to 3 cloves, depending on their size. Now for making hot peppers, which I'll do in 2 of these jars, I take and put a spoon of the chopped up peppers in next, like that. Then comes the dill. If you have dill in your garden that's gone to flower and that, you can just use a little stem and 1 flower. This is baby dill from the store. What I'll do is pick a couple good pieces on quart jars. If they're smaller pieces, I'll put 2. Large pieces like I'm using right now, I can just, like here, I'll put these couple pieces. If it's a huge piece, I'll just use 1. Basically, that's another one, is how much dill flavor do you really want to have. And I crush it up so it packs down into the bottom. Okay, now that we got that all in, we need to put our cucumbers into the jar. What I usually do is I try to pick the bigger cucumbers that are in the barrel first, then add the smaller ones to pack around it. It makes it a lot easier. So you just go ahead and work your spears, do your jar at a tilt so you can stack them into the jar real nicely like this, and it makes it a lot easier as you add more. So if you find some bigger pieces, like say, get them in first, then you pack around those. You want to get as much as you can in a jar without crushing them, because they will shrink a little as the jar cooks. And what I do is I reserve some circles just in case the spears don't fill the jar to the top. I can just top off the extra area with a few circles. Like that one won't fit, so I'll find the smaller one and slip that down into the space. So as you get towards the top of the jar, you got to kind of pick and choose, and I say wedge it as tight as you can. So that one is packed.